Good evening. This is Akitha. I am sharing with you my research project proposal idea paper. So the title as of now is History, Interpretation, and Reproduction, an exploration of Landtech and Carib Funk dance techniques. My research paper is focused on V.Y. Mudimbe's theories on gnosis in terms of African methods of acquiring knowledge and transmission of African knowledge, and Melville Hurkowitz's theories on African retentions and cultural transmission, and how they are interpreted and reproduced in the fusion dance techniques, Landtech and Carib Funk. Landtech, developed by Jamaican national Lantoinette Steins, is, quote, a hybridized Caribbean modern dance technique that is dominated by Caribbean, indigenous, traditional, and popular movements, end quote. Steins coined the term, or the genre, of movement, Carry Mod, which is Caribbean modern. Steins defines the technique as, quote, a synebridge of indigenous and traditional continuities with borrowed or shared data from other countries. The technique bridges Caribbean and European terpsichorean material, end quote. Carib Funk, developed by Bahamian national Akitha Carey, is a fusion of Afro-Caribbean traditional and social dance movements, modern ballet and fitness principles. It was developed as a system of movement that is centered on the idea of using the body as a form of protest, particularly the hip whine, reclaiming the dejected and sexualized body parts, which includes the pelvic area, the hip, and the derriere. Within this study, I analyze how Landtech and Carib Funk impart Africanist culture, identity, social values, and history through an Afro-Caribbean kinesthetic epistemology. My methodology. My methodology is qualitative. My data collection will be gathered through participant observation and primary and secondary sources. I will survey the literature written on the techniques. Engaging in virtual ethnography, I will analyze a dance work of each artist, engaging in both Brenda Dixon Godchild and Karamu Asante's African-based movement analysis paradigms to locate Afro-Caribbean identity formation and cultural transmissions. Quote, there is a silent dependence on Western African discourses that have been immensely radical in their reduction of African voices, end quote. I provide this African-based system of knowledge to discuss the African-influenced dance techniques, Landtech and Carib Funk, to address Mudimbe's claims that, quote, until now, Western interpreters, as well as African analysts, have been using categories and conceptual systems which depend on epistemological order, end quote. Questioning if there are African frameworks to discuss African systems of knowledge. Brenda Dixon's Godchild's article, Crossroads, Continuities, and Contradictions, in the text, The Afro-Caribbean Influence in Dance, in Caribbean Dance from Abaka to Zouk. She borrows from and builds on the consummate work of Robert Farris Thompson, Kariamu Asante, and Susan Vogel to, quote, designate a constellation of African elements that are manifested in many forms of Afro-diasporic dance, from South America to the Caribbean and the United States. These characteristics work symbiotically. They do not exist as discrete entities They dictate or indicate processes, tendencies, and attitudes, end quote. They are as follows. Number 1, embracing the conflict. Number 2, polycentrism and polyrhythm. Number 3, high effect juxtaposition. Number 4, ephebism. Number 5, the aesthetic of the cool. Number 6, communication continuity between human and the spirit world. Number 7, marathoning. Number 8, multiple foci. Number 9, improvisation. Number 10, collective communal trust. Number 11, cultural fusions and inclusions. Karyamu Asante identifies 7 aesthetic principles to describe African dance in the article Commonalities in African Dance, an Aesthetic Foundation in the Moving History Dancing Cultures text. She states that there are certain foundations that make up the African dance aesthetic, which she calls senses. They give the African dance its touch, feel, voice, and motion, end quote. The 7 senses are polyrhythm, polycentrism, curvilinear, dimensional, epic memory, repetition, and holism. The questions that I am exploring are, number 1, what Afro-Caribbean cultural retentions are included in Lantac and Carib funk? Number 2, what methodologies are employed to perform an Africanist diasporic identity? Number 3, how do African diasporic traditional and contemporary forms promote Afro-diasporic culture in the classroom and or studio? And number 5, how does Lantac and Carib funk deconstruct hierarchies and biases, decolonizing the mind and the body? Thank you.